Today we have Coach Parker with us. He is the head coach at Virginia Union University. Coach Parker, if you wouldn't mind, kind of give a little background on yourself.
Okay, well, again, my name is Alvin Parker. I'm the head football coach at Virginia Union. I've been in the profession for about 21 years. Um, Worked at three different schools, before I was able to come back to my alma mater here at Virginia Union and become the head coach. Um, I started this thing off with, like everybody else, mostly, in the GA role and kind of worked my way up the ladder. I was fortunate enough to that my head coach saw something in me when I played for him that he was able to give me a graduate assistant spot right out. And from that point, never stopped. Every fall the same thing, every spring the same thing. This coaching thing is just it's my passion. It's what I've been doing. The football thing for like my whole life. So it's something that comes pretty natural, and it's what I love. So always chose the profession that you love, and that's what I did.
Yes, sir. First thing I kind of wanted to go in with you is about education because you're actually I think the first coach I've interviewed that is also a doctor. Um, I mean, obviously you pride yourself in education, and we talk the importance all the time about the importance of education to our student athletes. But at my level, the high school level, and obviously at your level, the collegiate level. Um, but how important is or should it be, in your opinion, for coaches to further education? Obviously, we do a lot of professional development with clinics, but in terms of actual schooling, like in your opinion, how important is it? How important should coaches value it? Like continue on maybe more than a bachelor's degree?
I think I guess first of all, it's probably easier for me to say because I do, like you said, have a PhD, and it I guess it's up to every person, kind of individually. I think, but myself, if I would have to say, I think education is extremely important. Um, it shows a bunch of different things. It shows capacity for learning, and a lot of people, employers, want to see that. Other coaches that you might work for, they might want to see that. It shows that you kind of give a chance to further your education and further your mind. Everybody kind of on the mental fitness and things. The physical fitness, but I think the education portion shows your mental fitness. You know, um, and again, it shows just how serious you are. It's easy to preach it to your guys, and it's easy to follow once they see that how serious you take education. And, when guys walk into the office and they see that okay, well, this is Dr. Parker. The X's and O's kind of go out the window. They pay more attention to that, and they see that I'm vested in the learning process for them guys, and I am. It's kind of hard for me not to get you to that first one when somebody kind of helped me get to three of them. So I really appreciate the learning process. And again, I go back. I was raised in the house with a teacher. So to value education was something that was kind of put before me. I had to do all the educational things before any type of sports activities were able to take place. And again, when you show, you had the capacity to show guys, that you coach or that work under you, the capacity that you have for building yourself, it kind of, show them that you can help them build themselves. So education is important.
Awesome, coach, and I couldn't agree more. Kind of just now rolling to the next part. Since you've taken over at VUU, I mean, I would argue, based looking at what I can see from the outside, is you guys have had tremendous amount of success since you've taken over. What would you attribute to that early success you've had in your tenure there as the head football coach?
Um, I would be remiss if I did not say I had an awesome staff. I think that's been, one of the biggest things that have helped us. I have 10 other guys that work with me that make sure they do everything I ask. They follow my vision, and they make it go. So that's been one of the biggest things I think. Of course, we've had some great athletes. We had a bunch of great players. But a lot of the times, you can have a bunch of great players and nobody to lead them, nobody to kind of put them in position. And you're not going to have a bunch of success that way. So we've been able to kind of have both. We've had a lot of good players. We've had a lot of good coaches. And these guys have been coached up. And secondly, I guess having good coaches sometimes is kind of hard to keep them. So we've had a bunch of good staff continuity. I've been fortunate enough that I'm going into my third year, and I've had my same entire staff the entire time. Of course, switch out some GAs here and there, and some stuff like that. But in terms of all my, coaches, coordinators, everything else that's kind of been in place, they've been in place since I've been here. So it's been the same thing that's been kind of going on and on. Our juniors are hit the same thing. Our sophomores hit the same thing. Our freshmen are hit the same thing. That are being preached by the same guys. So having a good staff. I would tell that to any first-time head coach or anybody that's kind of looking to have some longevity in this thing. It ain't about you. You're the head coach. You make it go. But it's about assistance. I've been doing this thing, like I said, for 21 years. I've only been a head coach for 2. So I know, going on 3 now, but I know the value of being a great assistant. I know the value of taking someone else's plan and kind of putting it, into fruition and making it go. I know the value of that. So again, I sat in the assistant seat for much longer than I've sat in the head coach seat, and I know how valuable it is. And I think that can be attributed to a lot of the success that we've had and that we're gonna have because we got some great assistants. And it's not that they haven't gotten opportunities because a lot of them have, and I'm kind of holding on every January knowing that it's a possibility that I can lose a guy, but I want those guys to go flourish out, and I think it makes it easier to work for somebody like that because those guys know I have their career interest, at heart for them. I want them to be, help them get there. When them guys walk in and I talk to them initially, I tell all those guys, look, man, I want to see your 5-year plan. I want to see your 5-year plan so I can help you get there. I'm not, necessarily, it's good that I had some continuity. It's good that I had these guys there, but I'm not looking for lifers. I'm not looking for guys unless that's what they want to do, unless that's part of their plan. But those guys have aspirations to do something else, to be head coaches or anything like that. It's my job to help them, and I take pride in that. I want to help them guys get to where they want to go because guys did that for me.
Great, Coach. That is fantastic. Kind of lead the next question as I was kind of looking through your tenure and some of the success you're having as a special teams coordinator. I can't but help notice that your first season there, you led the nation in block punts. So I have to ask, based off that, how much emphasis do you put on special teams? How much time do you allot to it, and so forth?
We put about maybe definitely no less than 6 blocks of practice. Each block's about 5 minutes. For us, so we really don't have any practice that we put less than 6 blocks on special teams. Usually we do about 8. 2 20-minute segments. That's kind of what they count as. But we start every meeting with special teams and our team meetings, I'm saying. So we have guys that that'll sit in there in the meetings and probably we have linemen that are watching the kickoff team. Probably won't ever get a chance to play kickoff, but I had a lineman one time correct a guy on special teams and because he's sitting in the meetings and he hears it so much that, everybody knows the assignments and everybody sees how important it is. I think we've been fortunate, man. Again, like I say, for guys to buy in. We have a great special teams coordinator, Coach Schaefer, and it's his baby. He gets lost in it. We've had a bunch of success on special teams. Again, not necessarily, like you said, we led the nation in block kicks, and that was something that was great because we got a lot of points off that, and we stopped a lot of points off of that. So that was something that was good. But also, another stat that's not a published stat is that, we haven't given up a touchdown on special teams since I've been here. So that's something that's pretty huge. We haven't had a block kick since I've been here. That's something that's pretty huge. Again, because everybody takes their ownership in it. Nobody's excluded from special teams. As the head coach, I give our special team coordinator free reign to pick who he wants. Of course, maybe excluding quarterbacks and things like that. But, everybody takes pride in it, man. And they know, once that segment of practice starts, either you're going to be repping some things on the scout version of it or the real version of it to make it go because, we get to the game, we know we're going to beat you in special teams. And that's something that, again, from a team standpoint, we take pride in. We had the special teams player of the year this year, and our kicker, he made a lot of good kicks and did a lot of good things. It's a preseason All-American, so that was something that was good. So we had one kid that blocked about 5 or 6 of those kicks, so he was special. That was his position, that, he just did. He took pride in it. He was a receiver by nature, but when it was time to go get a kick, he was right there and he made it happen, so he was a starter at that and he made a huge contribution to the team. just by doing that. So guys feel that way. And again, all our meetings start off with it. We put a lot of emphasis on it in practice. So everybody knows the importance of it. The assistant coaches help out. We have a special teams coordinator, but like anything else, you have an offensive coordinator, but you still need a wide receiver coach. You still need a running backs coach. And so we have that, and we kind of divvy up responsibilities to make it go. And it's something that's been working since I've been here, and I guess you can see the success through the numbers that we've had on special teams.
Coach, you mentioned a little bit of player meetings there, but what about staff meetings? What does a typical staff meeting look like for you? What are you looking to get out of it? How do you structure it? I'm always curious how everybody structures their staff meetings differently. I'm kind of curious how you guys do it over there.
We've, of course, now things have really changed. We're kind of working more from home. So right now, we meet as a staff twice a week on Zoom. Sometimes we'll do a conference call if there's not anything information that we have to kind of share. But twice a week, and then we meet with the players twice a week, and we'll have a players meeting about every 10 days. So that's generally how we do it. And those meetings usually last about maybe an hour. And a lot of the times, things that I would ask normally from a standpoint of being in the office, with meeting with your players twice a week, coaches are kind of go over individually what they're teaching or what they went through. And they'll do that pretty much with the whole staff. So we'll go over that. And also we'll take that time to kind of talk about any things that we need to do from player concerns, because again, we meet about every 10 days from a team standpoint. Again, and so those guys are kind of have their hands on the players a little bit more than I would per se, but all of those concerns are kind of brought to the table, and if it's anything that I have to kind of reach out and do, I'll do. But again, it's a little easier since we've been working together for so long, and then you have the same guys. I think it'll be a little different. We're not installing any new schemes, any new systems, or anything like that. So again, right now, it's more about team management, roster management, scheduling. We made so many plans, man. We got plan A, B, C, D, E, that we ready to put into effect depending on how things turn out or how things go. So a lot of the time is spent planning and kind of doing that. But on a normal basis, all staff meetings will usually start about 9 o'clock. They'll go maybe to about maybe 10:30 or so, and then we'll break and split generally offensively and defensively, and those will kind of last to about maybe 12. Then we kind of break for lunch. And then, after lunch, I usually kind of give assignments and things like that we want to kind of get covered in those morning meetings. So the guys have kind of had the afternoon portion to themselves to kind of work in their own little silo kind of things like that. And then generally before the day ends, about 4, we'll get back together and kind of review some of those concerns or some of those things that we kind of talked about in those earlier meetings. And that's probably the quickest meeting right there, that 4 o'clock meeting, because I generally like guys to go home and be with their families and kind of get that portion of the day before the sun go down that you might want to get, do some things, and kind of handle some things. I'm not a guy that kind of keep guys in the office all night. If somebody's gonna stand there and get it done, it's gonna probably be me. And it's just a responsibility I take. I'm kind of doing that. But again, with those staff meetings, they're kind of broken up like that throughout the day. And when we're in season, of course, it's a little bit more. But of course, you got to throw practice in there, and some other things in there, and you got to throw player meetings in there. Then, so it gets a little different during the season.
Now, as you were talking, I kind of sparked another question for you. You mentioned obviously roster management. How much time over the past 2 years have you spent on player retention? Obviously, at your level, that's extremely important. How much time do you spend on it? What do you do to manage that player retention?
It's this thing called it's this mythical thing, this mythical place called a transfer portal that that sometimes that it's drawing a little bit of attention in the wrong facets. I've been fortunate, man. Since I've been here, I've had one kid to go into the transfer portal and going on my 3rd year, and I think it's a good thing because, again, we show those guys that we love them and we want them here. And it wasn't that he did not want to be here. He was behind an All-American. And he was probably felt like he was just as good, and he wanted to get an opportunity. And the All-American had more time left to play. So He felt like he wanted to go somewhere where he can be the showcase or the feature, and we granted him that. But in terms of the retention, we're in the 90s, man. We keep guys here, and they finish out, So that's something that, again, people talk about the recruiting aspect of everything. Retention is just that important. You look at your roster and you look at things like that, and you kind of go down and you look at, the freshmen that you spent a lot of time on recruiting, but then you look at it and say, well, that freshman might not play this year. It's going to be a guy that you retain. It's going to kind of take a lot of those reps and kind of be somebody that you're going to be counting on. Not to say a freshman couldn't come jump right in and play, because it can happen. But, I think the chances of somebody understanding the culture a little bit more and kind of understanding the dynamics of the college game a little faster is going to be somebody that you retain. Again, and you don't want somebody to be new to your coaching or surprised by the way, things are kind of going, or surprised by the way you might think you practice too hard, might think you practice too easy. You don't want anybody to kind of come in and think that and have to adjust. So retaining guys that kind of understand all of that, it goes a long way, man. It goes a long way. Anytime you can look back up, we had through our process, if we would have had spring, we'd have had 86 guys going through spring. And on the college level, that's a pretty large team to go through spring with. So, and that comes from retention. Having those guys on campus going through a process of either being redshirted or playing, or just sticking around and making sure they stick in and get a degree, and they develop socially, and play some good ball. And that's kind of been what's working for us, man. And I'm happy to say that. That the transfer portal and all those other things don't really get mentioned around my place, man, and I'm excited about that.
Awesome, Coach. Kind of heading in the next direction, and I know you mentioned you've had to hire 0 new assistants since you've been here, which is fantastic, and that's a tribute to the good things you're doing there. But when you hired your initial staff, or like you said, you're preparing in case they do leave. What do you look for in new assistants, and then do you have any kind of set questions prepared for when you do have to interview people?
I think more so that what people, if somebody wanted to necessarily get on my staff, or I feel like as the head coach, your circle becomes a little smaller, because you don't get to do all the things that you were able to do when you were an assistant, like go to the camps and work clinics and work a bunch of camps, and kind of go and do a lot of that, because your attention has to be focused a lot of other places. So in the process, I think it's good to meet and work with my assistants, because when I had an assistant that was up for a job, and I thought he was going to get it, and I asked him, who do you think I can replace you with? And I wanted to use his recommendation. It probably wasn't going to be anybody that I knew, or that I had a relationship. I say, who do you think I can replace you with? You know what my demands are. You know what I expect. You kind of know the workload. You kind of know who can I replace you with that's going to give me the same thing that you gave. Give me 3 names of that. That's not names I would have known. That was names he would have known, based off the fact of who he met and who he's worked with throughout the process. Because again, like I said, I was assistant for 17 years. I met a bunch of guys, man. I met a bunch of guys, a bunch of great guys, and been able to kind of, work with those guys now. So it's been something I've been fortunate to do, and I got lost in it. Right now as the head coach, you generally get to meet other head coaches, so that makes it a little difficult in that aspect, in that realm of things. But that's one of the ways I'll do it. But it's, some of the kind of cliche things that you always kind of ask about, a guy that's a hard worker, is professional, team oriented, all those type of things like that. But I guess one of my biggest things is loyalty. You want somebody that's going to kind of work for your mission. You want somebody that's going to work for your goal. You don't want anybody that's going to just take upon themselves to kind of go out and do their own thing, because it messes up continuity. Most staffs are kind of broken up, inside rather than out, so I kind of take that philosophy of things, and I'm not saying that my way is the 100% correct way, but again, it's my way, and I expect that, but in terms of interviewing guys, when I got the job, I hired 2 coaches whom I've never worked with before. So I can't say that I'm always going to hire guys that I know, but the other guys are guys I either work with somewhere or guys that I knew. But the two guys that I hired that I did not know are extremely valuable to our staff. Was me giving them guys a chance and kind of listening to them and taking, you know, what they had and realizing that it can work. Something that can help us win a bunch of ball games and help us recruit and help us, like you said, retain. Those type of things. If a guy kind of come in talking, salary and money and all of that, that's kind of first on the top of his list. And I understand we all need it and make things go, but it kind of turned me a little to the left, in terms of that, because I want to see, what are the other things. I remember I took my first job and I made $2,000 as a college coach, and I was just as happy as can be, because I got to coach my own position, I got to run my own room, I got to do all those type of things that I felt like was coaching, so that was something that was important to me, I probably didn't realize how much I was making to to now. I'm like, woo, I was making $2,000, but I had so much fun doing it, and that's what it's about. So in terms of hiring assistants, of course, you want somebody that's going to be a good teacher. You want somebody that's going to, have a passion for the kids they're going to work with. Because again, if you don't have a passion for that, it's going to be hard for you, man, and you're going to be burnt out on this thing. So that's kind of not what I'm looking for. So all the things that normal coaches be looking for, but again, you want to give that guy a pen. You want to be able to tell me how you're going to teach this to the kids. A lot of people are going to have a bunch of football jargon and a bunch of other stuff that they can throw out, catchwords and catchphrases and all of that. Tell me how you're going to teach this to the kids. So once you can show me that, I think that's one of the biggest things I'll be sold on. Because again, if you can't get all that knowledge that you might have over to the players for them to do it on the field, you're going to be no good anyway. So, that's something that I'm big on, just being a good and effective teacher.
Awesome, Coach. And then as we kind of start wrapping up here, I want to go into kind of community service, community development. You are known for your involvement in the community. So I kind of want to start off with, I mean, how do you get, I mean, obviously yourself, your staff involved in the community?
Well, we do. Mondays are our off days. So I generally plan community service type events on Mondays. So the last two that we've been doing, we had a lunch buddy program that we did with an elementary school. That on Mondays, we did it every other Monday. And we'll go to the school during the lunch hour, and all the players that were part of the program would link up with a elementary school kid, and they would just sit and kind of have lunch with them, and just kind of talk and kind of give them a buddy, from a college standpoint, and the guys loved it, so the lunch buddy program was something that was big. The teachers look forward to it. Sometimes that lunch hour would get extended because they would see the kids having fun, and it was a nice, good environment. That's something that went well. So that was something that we kind of prided ourselves on. So I think we're going to go back into that this year, depending on how the schools are working and letting people in and things. So that was something that was pretty big. The next thing we participated in, and this was kind of a anytime, everyday activity. It could be we adopted a kid from a program called Team Impact, and he was like a team member for us. His name is Frank, and he kind of suffered from small illness, but was something that he kind of came onto the team for us, and the guys treat him just like one of the players. So he'll come hang out at practice. His parents will bring him on up for games, and he got a seat right there in the stand. Sometimes he'll be on the sideline, and the guys take pride in that as well. That he's kind of a team member, so everybody looks at him that way. It's something that everybody loves, and that program Team Impact is something that's great. And the new thing that we're going to incorporate this year is going to be a Teacher of the Month program where our players go, put stuff together for a Teacher of the Month type of applicant that we'll kind of take different applications, let the team kind of vote on a Teacher of the Month to be local teachers and things like that we'll do and put together. And that's kind of something that was kind of inspired by, me, myself, my mom. My mom actually retires from teaching tomorrow.
Awesome, Coach.
And she's been doing it 30 plus years, and it's kind of a tribute to her because again, that's my background, and to show teachers appreciations and things like that is something that has to happen because again, that's our foundation. That's one thing everybody can say. You can remember that one teacher or multiple teachers that you had that kind of helped you get through and kind of push you and did some things for you that kind of made your life maybe go in a different direction. So that's another community service event that we're going to have that's going to be this year. We're going to do that throughout the whole year, identify a teacher of the month. So I'm looking forward to that one because that's going to be something that's going to be new for us.
Awesome, Coach. All that is fantastic, and I appreciate what you're doing for your community. But kind of going to the next part, what could, especially like high school programs, what do you think a high school program could do to get more involved in their community?
I think you probably just need to kind of identify what the community needs are. I guess every community kind of needs something different. I worked at a couple different schools that had some different, needs in the communities. One community kind of lacked some sufficiency and we're kind of low on reading scores. That was the test scores had showed that this community was a little low on reading scores. So we put together a reading program, for that area. And this was when I was at a school in North Carolina. And it's something that helped because we identified what the need was. It wasn't something that we were just going to be saturating or kind of doing over and over that was already being done. You got to identify what the needs are, in those schools. And like I said, every area has a different need. It might be a need for, another coach I had, we had a lot of, an overwhelming amount, and it was something I thought that was good. We had an overwhelming amount of senior citizens homes in the town. And he put together a program like that everybody kind of joined in on, that we would go to the senior citizens home. And we had a program like that we did in the community that, they look forward to it. They look forward to the guys coming in there with the jerseys on, helping them out, singing and doing different activities with them. So again, I've worked with a bunch of good head coaches that were able to kind of identify the needs that were in the area and kind of expound on those needs and kind of, add to it without kind of, like I say, doing some of the same things over and over and over again that were not necessarily needed. So, if you want to be, of the community, you have to take pride in the community. And again, doing something that's going to be valuable. That, again, those kids can look back on and say, you know what? When I was in school, a football player from Virginia Union came over and had lunch with me twice a month. And he did this and he did that, or you can look back and say, you know what, I had a little trouble reading and kind of understanding it, but when the players came over here, it gave me a different, level of confidence. It gave me a different level of know-how to kind of get this done. And it made me want to go, this thing that they can pay for when they get a little older or something like that they'll always remember. So again, just identifying whatever the community needs are, and looking around and seeing that. And we live in these communities, we kind of know what the needs are. We kind of understand what they are. And once you do that, you put your efforts forward to that.
Awesome, Coach. And kind of before we go here, do you have any final thoughts on anything we've talked about, anything we haven't talked about, that's something on your mind? Is there anything you want to speak on?
Nothing really. I think you did a great job of getting all the information out that you wanted. I guess some of the other things that a lot of people are having talks about or having concerns with has been more of the social injustice, things like that. That's been something that's been big in every community. Richmond here is no different. And I kind of addressed my team on it. When everything kind of first happened with George Floyd and everything like that. And there was a lot of questions that they had. There was a lot of concerns that they had, in terms of just wanting to protest and do things like that. So, I told them, know why you're protesting and understand why you're protesting. You can't just do it because everybody is doing it. And I think those guys got to understand enough, and it's kind of tough to do all of that over Zoom or to do that, in some other app, platform or a phone call or FaceTime, anything like that, because those guys are so used to, if they need me or they need one of the coaches, they could just walk over to our office and sit down and we can have a conversation. So that's been something that's been pretty hard or pretty difficult to kind of do because, I want to keep my hands on those guys a little bit more. But more importantly, I have two little ones. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. And, while they don't understand it as much, I think, trying to help them to understand it's been something that's been good. I think the questions that they're asking are questions that, make them a little bigger than 10 and 6 sometimes. But, seeing it too, we went to a couple of the things or some of the things that they had here in Richmond. And I took both of them to it. I was kind of unsure about it. But they got to see it. It's going to be a part of history. It's going to be something that they can look back on and say, you know what, you know, 2020, was a year, that this happened and that happened, but they were educated on some things, and they understand some things, and there's some things that hopefully won't be around by the time they have kids or by the time the next generation hits. That they won't have to kind of teach it over again. It'd be something that'll be kind of long gone, but that's been a small challenge, and that's been something I want to make sure that everybody know our stance on it. We're gonna kind of keep moving forward, fighting this thing until change comes, and that's been an overwhelming thing the last couple of weeks. Besides going through all the other stuff with COVID and everything else that's been challenging as well. But that's what coaching is about, man. Coach is about when I became a doctor, I always would knew that doctors save lives, and I think it's no different. Right now, even though I'm a PhD, my job is still to save lives. And I want to make sure that I save the guys' lives and kind of put them in position to live life, but to do it at the highest level. And those guys need me, and those guys know that I'm here. That's something that I provide them, and those guys have been taking advantage of it. And again, those guys have been kind of staying focused on what's ahead, while also kind of getting their small protests and other things across like that. So definitely appreciate that, and that's been something that's been pretty good.
Coach, I thank you. I appreciate you taking your time out today. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I wish you nothing but success this season.
Okay, I appreciate it.